be a dude.
Okay, here we go.
Right.
So we've got like 100 degrees outside.
Well, let me show something.
So
Sorry, guys.
it's like Austin, Texas. It's you can't go outside. I mean, you don't want to anyway because the city is.
Okay.
We're back. We're live. Thanks for joining us. We have a really exciting guest today. We have my old pal, Steve Jenkins, who is in New York City. Steve and I have known each other for many, many years, starting back at Dean and DeLuca days.
Oh, wow.
Steve went on to transform Fairway Market into one of the premier shops in New York. Opened how many stores did you open for them? 2, 3?
Oh my God! We ended up with 15 because of the horrible private equity people that bought us out.
Oh,
my mistake was staying around because I really had nothing else to do. And so we had 15, and we were doing over $1 billion in sales a year. This is from a little mom and pop shop at 74th and Broadway, and we just did it purely because we absolutely were impassioned with the foods that we were selling, and we were, blazing trails and pioneering stuff.
and you blazed a lot of trails there
4 or
with
5 times a year, which is my hobby that I got paid for. And Fairway got torched by private equity. Absolutely torched. Today, as we speak, there's all these wonderful people that many of whom I hired and trained, and that are just, they don't know what to do. The stores have closed one after the other across Long Island and New Jersey and Connecticut and Manhattan. And it's just the saddest thing to see what these vultures that are private equity do. It's just everything you've heard about private equity people is more than true.
And how did they get to have the money?
I stayed on good terms with these private equity guys because I was their guy. I was their moneymaker. My stuff was so hot in the city and nobody could get any of my stuff anyplace else, so they had to come to Fairway, blah, blah, blah. So I stayed friendly with these guys, and that was a mistake because they were a scumbag to a man Jack, every single one of them. It just boggles the mind how unethical these people are. Everybody's got to work. Everybody's freaking out. We were this wonderful place to come to in New York City, and it's gone. And it's been there forever, but it's gone because of private equity guys. It's just incredible. And the guy called me, the head guy that did this, called me a few weeks ago because this big essay in Atlantic just came out for the July issue. And there's this voluminous article about what happened to Fairway, and I was on the phone with this young lady who wrote it for 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours I was on the phone talking to this writer, and Atlantic hires really good writers, and she was just all over this thing. So this head of the private equity outfit starts calling me, and I wouldn't return his calls because I knew I would say something untoward that I would regret later or not. Jimmy, I just can't tell you what a nightmare, and just another chapter in what a disaster New York City is as we speak. It's just desolate, and it's devastated, and everybody I know is out of work and miserable, bored out of their minds. Every day follows another day that's just like the one before, and they've got nothing to do. They've got no place to go. There's nobody to see. and you and I, Olivier, are sitting here like, blithe, and it's just a freaking nightmare.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, no, I mean, I can't get over it. I absolutely can't get over it. I've got this quiet warehouse I get to go to every day, or
No, I know.
brains out.
Well, let me ask you a question, Steve, because the New York Magazine, just to give our viewers a little idea of your prowess, New York Magazine once included you on a list of the 100 smartest New York.
Wow.
Now, Steve, I figure half those people must be dead by now. So what are you? Are you in the top 10? Do you figure now?
Yeah, I made that list. That was great. And
You must.
you know who else that gave me great ink was Susan Orlean.
Oh, I don't know her.
I've always loved Susan Orlean, despite the fact that she wrote about me back in the 80s about the stuff I did at Fairway. And, Susan Orlean went on to do the Orchid Thief and stuff. And Jimmy, she's got a book out now that is a must read. Susan Orlean's new book called The Library Fire. It's
Oh,
about the LA library when it burnt down by that whack job. She wrote a whole book about the history of the Los Angeles library and how it came to get burnt down and all of the stuff around it. And Jim, it is fascinating.
I didn't know they had libraries in Los
She
Angeles.
absolutely rocks.
Steve, I didn't know they had libraries in Los Angeles.
What about Los Angeles?
No, they do
I said
actually.
I didn't know they had libraries in Los Angeles.
Well, that was why I was so interested in it. So I'm real into library. I love libraries. There's libraries all over the world that are just like the heaven place, the heaven space. I want to be there. But this Susan Orlean book about libraries, so good.
I'll read it. So you pioneered a lot of things involving olive oil at Fairway, and you've now parlayed that into a handsome business of your own.
Well, parlay, I don't know.
Jones.
Once again, it was a mission. You have to understand that as late as the late 80s and mid 90s, there wasn't a bottle of olive oil available to you or Olivier that was worthy of your kitchen. And people don't understand that. They don't understand why. So it wasn't really a parlay. It was like what I did with American cheese and French cheese, Spanish cheese, is I made the good stuff available. Heretofore unavailable. Absolutely.
There's a Hano no King.
I made it available. Nobody else did. Nobody thought that was necessary, and I'll tell you why if you're interested.
Yeah, I want to know explain to people how Olive Oil Jones works, because it's really pretty fascinating. You don't just bring in cases of bottled olive oil.
No, Lord, no. That's anathema to having great olive oil in the kitchen is buying olive oil at retail. And it's a scandal of gargantuan proportion that this industry, that of olive oil, has chosen to not tell the truth to the vast populace of people that rely upon olive oil as their most important ingredient in the kitchen. The fat you use in the kitchen, it's got to be the most important thing in the kitchen, aside from the primary ingredients to any recipe. The fat that you use, whether it's lard or butter or olive oil, is a huge and wonderful thing to get to reason with. Now, I love lard. I mean, to pop popcorn and bacon fat, or to fry an egg in bacon fat, or to use butter in anything.
Yep, that's right.
Is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But neither of those fats is olive oil. Olive oil is vastly more entertaining and more important than the other cooking fats that you have a choice to use in the kitchen. So this is a monumental thing that we're talking about here, that and a scandal of huge proportion that you've not been told the truth all these years about olive oil. And that's what Olive Oil Jones is about. We're a mom and pop shop. Michelle and I do this all by ourselves and with a little help, but we are purely.com because I won't
Right.
sell wholesale. I won't sell to stores. I won't sell to shops or
Oh yeah,
stores. I just won't.
right.
That's not the way it should be. The
Right.
way we do it is the way it should be done. Like the milkman that used to come down the street to you and me and Olivier in the old days, and had huge clear blocks of ice on the milk truck that he would use to keep the milk and the cream and the butter and everything.
Yeah. Speaking of milkman, I've always wondered why my brother looks so different.
Why? What looks so different?
His
My
brother.
The
Yeah.
milkman used to come a lot to my house. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I'm sure it has nothing to do with the milkman, but
Are you implying that it was your mom that's why the guy, the milkman always rings twice?
That's right.
yes.
You know what movie I saw yesterday on the magnificent Turner Classic Movies, which has been a lifesaver during this pandemic? I saw a film that's been one of my favorite films my whole life called The Incident from
Oh, yeah?
'67. I can't remember the director, but somebody I didn't recognize, but it was Tony Nusanti and Marty Sheen and Bo Bridges. But who pops up in that film? Steve Martin
Ah, yeah.
with
Nice.
black hair. The Incident. It's about these two lowlifes that terrorize people on a subway. And it's one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. The Incident. It was on Turner Classic Movies. But what's interesting about that is Steve Martin's chef is a dear friend of Michelle and me now, and he makes all of our marmalades. He's
Oh, wow.
Steve Martin's chef, and he lives in the San Remo when they're in New York, and they probably have a wonderful place in Los Angeles. You know, rich people. I hate rich people. I hate white people. And I hate rich people. So anyway.
So the marmalade you sell on the site is made by him?
Yeah, he makes.
Oh, nice.
The Seville orange marmalade,
Yeah.
drop dead, absolutely drop dead. And he makes the Sicilian lemon marmalade and the Seville.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're just drop dead good.
So tell us what happens when I order a bottle of olive oil on oliveoiljones.com. What happens then?
I pick up the order on my iPad on Squarespace, and Squarespace sends it to what's called ShipStation, which is how I poke things on my laptop up at the warehouse so that I can get a shipping ticket to come out that I can put on the box that I pack. What I do all day is pump oils into bottles and then laboriously and pack them so that they can go in boxes and arrive unbroken. So I don't pump oil until I get an order from you. I don't have any backstock of any vinegar or oil
Right.
already bottled. I don't
So
until I get the order. The result of that is that the way I get the oil in is in huge barrels, and that means that it's under stasis. There's a tiny. Can you see my hand? There's a tiny layer on the top of olive oil that's not kept fresh by nitrogen, but is nonetheless has oxygen above it. That may get a little bit oxidized, but it's infinitesimal. So my olive oil in all my barrels is as fresh and exuberant and billowing with fragrance and flavor as it was the day the olives came in and went into the hopper. And that's something that's never been done. All that olive oil that you and Olivier buy at retail is stale. It's been in those bottles, or rarely in a tin, those bottles for months and months and months. That oil's been cooped up and bombarded by light in a dead oil. And it probably wasn't really very good oil to begin with, if you know what I mean. My oil, on the other hand, is as fresh as the day it was ground up and centrifuged. We don't press any.
So let's talk, James. Let's talk a little bit about why an oil would be bad. Remember, I know we talked about it many times, but let's refresh people's memory. It's temperature, oxygen,
temperature, light, time,
and light.
Yes, exactly.
And the way it works is, oxygen goes in there and, combined make a new chemistry, but the light is very important. Light comes into the bottle
Yeah.
Photons.
Yeah, and herein is another fallacy that's given to you by the olive oil industry that, oh, we pack our oil in dark bottles and that keeps the
Which
light.
helps. It
That's
does help.
the exact opposite. Black, dark draws sunlight or fluorescent light or
The
whatever
draw black, yeah.
being bathed in.
But
Draws
the
it.
green,
My olive oil, on the other hand, is in a bottle with a huge white label that repels light.
right.
And our olive oils for our intelligent customers stay in the pantry.
How about green, sir? How about
Anyway,
green?
they're not sitting out on the counter all day.
Right.
They're in the pantry. But when they're out, that huge white label on our liter bottles repels light.
Yeah.
So
So
again,
this is
the olive oil industry is lying to you, absolutely lying to you. Now, I made the remark about all the oil that you buy at retail being of inferior
yeah.
because
Okay.
of the way it's been presented to you.
Look at this.
Let me say, hold on, James. Don't move.
Look, I've got great friends at California Olive Ranch, and I know all you California people buy California Olive Ranch oil as a gesture toward your larder. You think that because you've got the California Olive Ranch olive oil that you've done the best you can. It's good stuff. They do good work. They've done a lot of wonderful Australian things that they've worked, collaborated with the Australians on, and they do lovely work. But it's not rock and roll olive oil. It's olive oil that's almost good enough, and that's a rave coming from me that I would say that. So don't think I'm giving a blanket condemnation of everything that you can buy at retail, even though I am. If you don't have access to Olive Oil Jones, which is ridiculous, there's always California Olive Ranch, and you could get, a third of the way there towards Bliss. But olive oil from California Olive Ranch is not nearly as good as it could be if they were fanatics and small-time operators like me. I do it our way because this is the best way. This is the path to perfect olive oil Jones.
You also talk about your producers a lot. I know you tell stories on the website about these people that grow and press this olive oil. And that's a way to ensure that the olive oil you're getting is truly from those people, from their groves, from their presses.
Well, that's my big quarrel with what's available to you and Olivier at retail is that none of those olive oils were chosen by somebody who's an idiot savant and passionate about it. They're in the business of olive oil. It's either good olive oil or it's okay olive oil. And usually it's just okay olive oil, if not absolutely inferior. My 7 millers are people that I've been importing from for years and years and years.
Right.
And not because I'm loyal, though I am, and not because I like that notion of continuity. I deal with them because they're fanatical about how they husband their groves, how they work all year long to have an October harvest that is drop dead and different from the guy. Different from the guy down the hectares, in that this miller took a lot more time and effort to produce the perfect olive oil than those other guys did, that end up in bottles that are at retail for exorbitant prices. My prices are killer, by the way. I'm half the price of anybody else online that's offering olive oil that's unworthy of you in the first place. My olive oils are superbly priced, but the issue is the way I've chosen them. These guys are crazy. I've got a Sicilian, I've got a Portuguese family, I've got 4 Spanish families, not all in Andalusia. One of them's in Extremadura, and a Portuguese family that are
Nice.
They're just totally whacked out as to what it is they do, and it makes me so happy to be their champion. We constantly champion these people that make my 7 olive oils. Now, are there a lot lot of oils that I want to have. Yeah, I mean, I had 150 different olive oils at Fairway, but I just you can't sell them all. You gotta sell some specific ones. But we
So you
still
make
haven't
blends,
gotten
right?
the huge scandal though that is the olive oil industry, James.
Well, this stuff is fantastic. I love the oil. This is the Tuscan, but I love the Portuguese. The Sicilian is mind-boggling. And your vinegars are great too. Now, do you do those the same way? They're in barrels, and you don't put them in bottles until you get an order for them.
Yeah. All my vinegars come in by huge barrels, by water, and I wouldn't sell a vinegar unless it was so rock and roll that I could achieve such monumental sales that Michelle and I are so happy to be doing that business. Our vinegars are very, very particular. I was the first with Giorgio De Luca by my side, or let's fix it. I was by his side back in '78 when we got his dad, Tom DeLuca, who was an Italian food importer. He imported some great old brand of pasta. And we said, Tom, we need a pallet or two of balsamic vinegar. It comes from Modena. And by God, we got our hands on shitty balsamic vinegar before anybody else in the city had ever heard of it. It's often Marcello Hazan's given credit for having brought balsamic vinegar to New York, and while I worship the memory and work of Marcello Hazan, we beat her brains out. And Dean and DeLuca, we had balsamic vinegar before anybody for months and months and months before Bloomingdale's got Marcello to bring it in. So,
and no one understood it.
Nobody understood it. I had
they loved it.
The foggiest about it, and I really didn't either because I was just a kid. But so I bring this up because I'm invested in the nature of balsamic vinegar, and I know it's all passé, and I know that all of us are addicted to it, and we adore it, and blah blah blah. But I bring in a balsamic vinegar from an Achataya that sends me barrels of this exquisite balsamic that you couldn't buy at retail for less than $100 for a little teeny bottle of it.
Wow!
And I sell it for under $40 a liter, drawn right out of the barrel. Wow. And it's the most drop dead balsamic that you've ever put in your mouth. And we only, we use it for salads. We don't cook with balsamic, and we don't chunk up Parmigiano nuggets and have nuggets and balsamic for our friends to enjoy, and that has been dribbled with good balsamic. We don't do that. We use balsamic for salad dressing. And this special occasion balsamic that I import and have imported for years and years and years and years is just freaking drop dead balsamic that you couldn't find balsamic vinegar of this quality in any shop anywhere. And the alternative is that rot gut that you buy at retail in any fancy or non-fancy store. It's all rot gut balsamic vinegar that was exported by crooks to be imported by other crooks in the United States to foist it on the Americans, who will go, oh, that's pretty good. Well, you haven't tasted real balsamic until you've tasted my stuff. And it's not that thick, yucky balsamic that costs $150 for a bottle that's about that big, It's balsamic in a liter bottle that you use as you will for your salads that you and I and Olivier live upon.
Well,
so that's my pride.
This is balsamic vinegar that's basically at the stage that one would put it into the little barrels, right? But it's been aged for several years.
And these crooks instead barrel it up for me and send it to me.
Yeah.
And there's nothing close to it that's available at retail, unless you're buying a little, 20 centiliter bottle of balsamic vinegar that costs $150, and you're going to use drop by drop. That's not.
Well, people pay $7-8 for a bottle of balsamic vinegar. Yeah. Our friend Ari Weinswag once described it as it's aged for about as long as it takes the boat to get from Italy to New York.
Exactly. That's how
True,
my
it's
cheese is
true.
melted. For
They
30
fill it
years,
with
that's how
caramel coloring.
James, that was how I was a master affineur. In addition to being a maître fromager, was that my affinage was on the boats that came across the Atlantic. I was on those boats, and I was turning each cheese upside down, rubbing it, putting it back in the box. That whole affinage thing is such a crock of shit. Almost approaching the huge crock of awful that is the olive oil industry. And
Yeah.
I haven't gone off.
There it is.
Whenever you're ready, I'm ready to go off, and I'll do it in just a few words.
Oh,
Olivier,
no,
you got to listen to this. Olivier, this is important.
Yeah. Tell us about the olive oil business.
Okay, you're letting me do it now.
Yeah.
All right. You've got to
and
understand.
also, Steve, one thing
Olivier,
you can
what?
do also is explain people what's the difference between. So, olive oil can be oxidized, but a vinegar is differently oxidized. Oxidation is good for vinegar. It's not
Exactly.
good for olive oil. So, can you
Exactly.
make
And
the
if you're
can you make the
those of
difference
you idiots
between?
about olive oil, you'd also learn that olive oil needs to be kick-started with a little bit of oxidation for any of its nuances to
Right.
reveal themselves, and that's hard to understand. But if you will read uh, Dr. Gino Ciletti's book, The Perfect Olive Oil, you'll understand why that is. But that's not what I'm talking about. We digress about balsamic vinegar, but the vinegar that I'm setting the world on fire with, Michelle and I and everybody that knows us, is utterly addicted to our Lambrusco vinegar.
Oh yeah.
Anybody that's listening or has tuned us out because they don't want to hear about balsamic vinegar anymore needs to understand that there's a life-changing, life-altering substance available to you that's called Lambrusco vinegar. And everyone that knows us that has gotten weary, jaded with using balsamic all the time, now uses Lambrusco vinegar. What's Lambrusco? Lambrusco is how James and I, back in high school days, would get drunk faster and get our dates drunk faster by making them swill Lambrusco wine, which was let me put my hand, was the biggest Italian import, including automobiles, fashion,
Wow.
anything else. The biggest item that Italy exported to the United States started in the 70s, lasted well into the 80s, was
Wow.
Lambrusco wine. And it was horrible. It was an embarrassment to a noble grape that goes back to Etruscan times.
Right.
There's six varieties of it. And
It's packing a lot of time, right?
Riunite Lambrusco. It got you where you wanted to be faster than Strawberry Hill or Lake Country Red or any other horrible wine that you were drinking when you were young. Lambrusco. Well, guess what? Here it is, 20 whatever. And there's all these winemakers in Emilia Romagna, where Modena and Bologna are, and where the Lambrusco grape grows almost chiefly, that results in an aperitif wine that has taken the place of Prosecco and of Cava,
Yeah.
of Champagne. It has blown them away. Now the intelligentsia is into Lambrusco because of these hipster Italian winemakers who have discovered this oddball grape that results in either a white, a pink, or a red sort of fizzy bell.
Very slight. Frizzante.
Exactly. That just is delightful. Well, and my guys make a vinegar out of it. And it's stunning. And you could get, sour Lambrusco vinegar like any ordinary red wine or white wine vinegar. But Michelle's and mine is sweet. It's a sweet pink. Florence Fabricant called it a ruby red. It's not ruby red. It's more of a pink vinegar that, as I say, everybody that knows Michelle and me or is a customer of oliveoiljones.com is addicted to and can't use anything else. And we get orders and orders and orders for people wanting bottle after bottle after bottle of Lambrusco vinegar. I'm sorry, Olivier, I had to digress and tell you about my other vinegar.
No, Steve, you know, the good thing is we don't have any plan. We have a bunch of questions planned, but we want the guest. This is more important. Our guest is more important because our question, we can do them anytime, right, James?
Sure.
Planning is my forte.
Sure. I still want to expose the entire multi-billion-dollar olive oil industry.
Please.
I'm ready.
Okay, so
say one thing first. I helped open an Italian restaurant in about 1998.
Yeah, I remember that.
we had a wine buyer who was very good, very savvy. He'd lived in Italy for 20 years. He really knew Italian wines, and he was going to put a Lambrusco on the menu that he said would go really well with a plate of charcuterie. And I thought to myself, Lambrusco, are you out of your mind? And he brought it. It was delicious. It was delicious.
And I've said that we do sangria with it.
Yeah.
Who knew? But
I came out with this actually.
But until you've used this Lambrusco vinegar in the kitchen, in a vinaigrette, or on its own, you're not going to believe me. But I'm telling you, everybody that knows us is off of balsamic, and they're addicted.
I'm going to give Olivier a little. I'm going to get a little bottle and give Olivier some so he can try it because it's phenomenal. So is the balsamic.
You know, I'm a fool in that I'm way generous. If I hear a word from you, you and Olivier are both going to get that stuff in the mail, hand packed by moi.
Hand packed by virgins, you say? What?
Yeah. Hand packed by geezer. Who goes to his warehouse every day except Sunday usually. And
I love the packing, by the way. I love the way the bottles come packed.
And after 5 hours of that, I'm staggering. I'm trying not to trip over something and fall down. We're talking serious peasant virtue labor.
That's great. Well, that's how you can afford to sell the oils and vinegars at what you sell them for. Because if you had a giant crew and a giant warehouse and all that stuff,
all that goes to hell.
All adds up to the expense.
It's okay because now more and more people are looking for quality. So we are entering a good time right now where people are going to pay for quality because they realize that if it's not made the right way, it's not good. So it's not so I always trying to explain to people that the difference between a good cheese and a cheap cheese is not that one is good and one is less good. One is not food at all.
Right.
One is food. You know what I mean? It's not. You can't really compare. It's one is made the way it should be made. It's nothing special, and the other one is not made the way it should be made. That's pretty much it. You know what I mean? There's no like.
If you make compromises, they grow. You make more and more compromises. Right. Olive Oil Jones is about not making any compromises whatsoever. The only way we could do better is if we had groves, in the South Bronx, that we were able to take the olives off.
You're doing
this is as fresh as olive oil can get. But James, Olivier, the problem is the olive oil industry.
Yeah, tell us.
95%, 98% of all the olive oil in the world is not early harvest. It's late harvest oil. It's from olives that have gone way past the green and beige stage and have fallen into the reds and the maroons and the browns and the purple and the black. And that means that those olives have no phenols.
Right.
There are no polyphenols in a ripe olive. But the entire industry, to the tune of 95 to 98% of the industry, harvests olives. They're ripe. Why? Why do they do that? Why wouldn't they want to harvest them when they're green?
Because it's more stable, right?
They have more olive oil in them, right? They're higher oil content.
It's more stable.
There you have it, James. You get 2 to 3 times the yield from a ripe olive than you do from a green olive. So the industry has for 100 years, not 50, for 100 years has turned their back on the perfect olive oil instead to go for the money. And the money is in ripe olives, But you need to understand that in late October, when those olives begin to change color, within a matter of days, the polyphenol level has dropped like a rock.
Right.
It hasn't gone down gradually. It has dropped like somebody jumping off of a diving platform. And if you don't have the polyphenols in your olive oil, you have delivered it of the magic of everything that is desirable about your cooking fat, about olive oil, is in a green olive, not in a ripe olive. Green olives and beige olives have super high polyphenol levels, and those are the antioxidants. Now, the antioxidants are the miracle food that keep us alive forever with no incidence of disease. The polyphenols that are the antioxidants also provide within olive oil the incipient adult bitterness and pepperiness and spiciness that serve to amplify all of the flavors that are in the other ingredients in your food. And without that, you're just greasing up your food. Your olive oil, those late harvest olives, lies on your food like a side of lox. It does nothing for your food but grease it up and make it taste like olives. And that's not what olive oil is about. Olive oil is about expanding all those flavors that are in those other ingredients that you're using with the olive oil and accentuate all of the virtue.
One point I want to make here, a lot of people ask me if we can cook with olive oil. And so the analogy I make is, if the olive oil is very fresh, the olive oil is going to sustain itself because it's so loaded with antioxidants that by the time it won't decay for a long time. That's why in Spain, Italy, in France, we cook with olive oil because it's fresh made.
Olive oil at retail is stale. It's gone.
Right.
All of its,
so it's already dead. It's
all
already
of its
dead.
living and breathing, all of its billowing of freshness is long gone. I don't care what you pay for it. You pay $8.99 for a liter of really shitty olive oil, or you can pay $28.99 for a liter that's in a cool bottle with a really cool label of olive oil that once was really probably pretty good and maybe even was early harvest, but it's dead now. It's stale now. Olive oil.
So what would you like to see on the label?
Well,
what would you like to see on the label, Steve? Like, what would be a good for people? They ask me all the time, what should I buy? I have a lot of students, and they're always wondering where they buy their stuff. So for me, the answer is, I don't have really I don't know until you smell your olive oil and you taste it. I don't know what else to tell you, because your nose should be able to pick up on, like, the staleness, the unappetizing, that oxidation. You pick up on this.
Yeah. If you're looking at an olive oil label for an expensive olive oil or a mid-expensive olive oil or a cheap olive oil, and it doesn't tell you where it comes from, it doesn't tell you when it was harvested, it doesn't tell you what the cultivars are, that is the variety of olive that was used, and doesn't tell you exactly where it came from, not just the country, but the goddamn region, then you should reject that olive oil because it's not worthy of you, because you're being lied to or not told the truth about whatever olive oil you have in your hot little hands that you're thinking about dropping X amount of dollars for. You're getting cheated. And the olive oil industry is not complicit, they're totally responsible for ripping you off as regards your opportunity to have a really magical substance in your kitchen. My labels and the labels of a few olive oils out there will tell you when it was harvested, what the cultivars were, where exactly it came from, and perhaps some thumbnail sketch of what to expect from this particular oil. And you're not going to find it because the olive oil labels don't do that. And that is a shame. When people say things are a shame, shame. This is a shame. Olive oil industry allows these things to go on. And just like in the dark, people are so stupid in America, they're not going to ask questions. They don't want to know the difference. Olive oil is greasy. It smells like olive. Good enough for
James,
me.
James, I want to answer to Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth. How you doing, man?
Can you read that, Steve? Kenneth? one of our viewers, Kenneth, says the concept going around that you can use the cheap stuff.
Oh yeah, that's also bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're going to use
don't use cheap stuff. Don't
use really crummy olive oil to cook with, your result is going to be really crummy. And to say, well, when you use really expensive oliveoiljones.com olive oil and cook with it, all of the nuances. Where's my hand? All the nuances disappear. That's bullshit. They do not. They remain within that pan that you've heated up to 410 degrees or whatever.
Steve, it's
and
not
they
even
make everything better. So that's a lie. Once again, that's a lie.
And also, you don't want to eat a cheap olive oil regardless because it's not good for your body. I don't know why you would do that anyways. I don't even care about
that we need to have. Olive
oil. I don't even care about the smell is another thing, but the fact that you already use something that's toxic, that's to me you can't even pass that. I mean that it doesn't even matter the flavor. It's already toxic. It's already bad.
Yeah.
So you need to stop right there.
Bless that man for saying that. And people need to understand that. If you continue to settle, you're affecting what comes out of your kitchen and goes on the table. And that's all there is to it. The most important ingredient in your kitchen is your olive oil. And if you're cooking with shitty olive oil, shame on you. That's just ridiculous. Use your olive oil up. Buy more. There's nothing more important in your life.
People need to understand that in a traditional environment where people use the Mediterranean, people buy their olive oil when it's harvested, when it's pressed, and they buy it for the year.
Yeah. And Jimmy, they buy it from their cousin down the block.
Exactly.
And that cousin, oh, he makes the best. He doesn't know a fucking thing about olive oil. He's been selling you a shitty olive oil for generations, and you're inured to it, and you don't know anything else, and you don't understand the joy that you've missed because of your idiot cousin. Down.
Yeah, but it's the same for everything. Chocolate is the same. Vinegars. It's all the base. If you buy stuff that are cheap, you're putting yourself at risk for anyway to start with, and you won't enjoy the possibility. And it goes for everything. It goes for cheese, vinegar, wine, bread. When I buy my flour, I want good flour. I want juice toast. When I buy my sugar, I would never touch that white sugar. I don't care where I have to drive to. I'll get something good. It's just a principle. And it goes for cheese, bacon. I mean, the bacon has to be pretty, has to be fat. It has to look good. Everything is like this. It's not just oil. It's
everything is
food. Everything that you put in your body. It's like
everybody's willing to compromise everything. And our job, you and me and James.
Kenneth, yes.
Opt for the best. Opt for the absolute best ingredient you can possibly get your hands on. You spent $10 too much. In 10 years, you'll have forgotten all about it. Come on.
Well, people turn their nose up if their vegetables look terrible, if they're all black and wilted, but yet they'll buy products off a shelf that are so far gone.
I know.
Let me just quickly.
I don't get that.
That's why the world will need grocers like me, because I was a grocer.
Wait, James, don't move.
Oh, that's a beauty.
That's really good, man.
Look at that big wrinkle in the label. You know why there's a big wrinkle in there? Because I put every one of those labels on by hand.
I can see.
I have this multi-$1,000 machine that puts labels on bottles. I don't use it. I put it back on the box. I put every label on by hand.
What's on this label? Not only is there a bunch of information about where it comes from, early harvest, super high. It says from the Larnione family grove, southwest of Siena.
Oh, wow.
A blend of Correggiolo, Frantoio, Mariolo, Lecchino, Pendolino, Morino. It's lists all these olives, and I know I pronounced them badly.
No, you did great.
Pronounced grassiness, wild herby, artichoke, typical bitterness, and sweet pepper, wildflower, green almond.
Wow.
When was the last time you saw an olive oil in a supermarket that had even one of those words on the label?
Yeah.
I saw that it was in a plastic bottle.
What
Yeah.
I didn't tell
How
you.
about the plastic bottle, Steve? What do you?
What about the bottle?
How about the plastic bottle?
Yeah.
What do you say? What do you say?
How about plastic bottles?
Ah, like my tequila. My tequila comes in plastic bottles. Am I an alcoholic? But what I didn't tell you about the Tuscan oil, James and Olivier, you got to understand,
Yeah.
Tuscans are scumbags.
Yeah, I have experience with we were bringing in olive oil for a company I was with, and the guy that was our guy in Italy, he said he would be at these frantoio early in the morning, and he would see all these trucks coming in with license plates
Yeah.
from Apulia,
Yeah.
Calabria,
Yep.
Paglia.
Basilicata.
And they'd come in like before it was even light, and they would do their thing, and then they'd be off again. And yet all the oil that was coming out of this place said, product of Tuscany.
I've got a lot of
Hey,
friends
James,
for years that are Tuscans.
I want to, since we
Olivia,
have Steve.
just like people in Provence.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends in Provence, and I've got a lot of friends in Tuscany. And
It's all about quality. It's all about quality.
Tuscans are ethnocentrists, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. They think that because we think the Tuscans are cool, that we'll pay 2.5, 3 times
Sure.
for olive oil or wine for what it's worth, just because they're Tuscans. We're Tuscans, and we deserve 2.5 to 3, not double, James.
So where can we find that oil, James?
Oliveoiljones.com. Oliveoiljones.com. This is the name of the oil, Olive Oil Jones. Oliveoiljones.com. Steve, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if I told you this or not, but Olivier is from an old olive producing family in Paris. They grow their olives in the 14th arrondissement. It's a little known appellation, but they've been doing it for generations.
The 14th arrondissement may be the most hideous of all arrondissements. But
No, I live in the
James,
6th.
Olivier, I had 3 Provence oils and Languedoc.
I lived in Provence.
Oils. I had 15 different Provençal and Languedoc oils at Fairway that I curated, that I imported direct. Nobody else in the country had my oils, but I had them because I was really, really high on Southern French oils, which was not well advised because the French don't understand this business about early harvest. They provide maybe 5% of their oil as early harvest. The other 95% of Southern French, Provençal Languedoc oils are late harvest oils. The French are brain dead about the mission, the path to perfect olive oil. And they, like the ethnocentrist Tuscans, think they're entitled to 2 and 3 and 4 times the price for their oil of anybody else in the universe that's producing olive oil just because they're in the fucking south of France. Like I'm in Tuscany, so I'm entitled to more because we're just cooler than anybody else that's around, which is total nonsense.
Well, except
committed to getting the great Miller out there.
But it is pretty cool in Provence.
Yeah, you got that.
Yeah. So basically, when it's late harvest olives, do you see the color difference, or do you just how can you tell?
How can you tell what?
Like when it's late harvest.
Well, you tell late harvest oil by there not being a proclamation on the front label that proclaims that it's early harvest oil.
But you don't see it.
Sweet. They call late harvest oil is referred to as sweet oil, which is a euphemism for olive oil that has nothing going on inside it except it used to be attached to an olive. Sweet. What nonsense. And that's how you know, Olivier, if it doesn't proclaim on the label that it's early harvest oil, when it comes from a specific place, then it needs to be rejected by you, me, James, by anybody that's holding it in their hand and regarding it and going, oh man, that is one cool label. Whoa, what a cool label. Look at that. Look at that bottle. That's the way they sell wine.
Yeah.
You have no idea if the wine's going to be potable because the label is vainglorious and the bottle is cool. And that's not the way to make a judgment in this life. You've got to understand the nature of the product. If the label doesn't tell you it's early harvest, then it's not. That means it's greasy, sweet oil that serves no purpose whatsoever. If your olive oil is not early harvest oil, it's unworthy of you, has no spice, has no pepper, it has no antioxidant ability to make you live forever without ever being sick.
So I want to stress something out, Steve, even more. Can you hear me, Steve? You don't hear me very well, huh?
I see you fine. The top of your head's cut off. Maybe if I push that X. I'm afraid to push it.
Anyway, so
the whole top of Olivier's head is cut off.
Oh, there's no top.
Maybe I push that X.
He just looks that way.
There.
I don't have a top. So, we're always talking about good ingredients here. So this show is really about not getting cheap stuff. So I know sometimes we may sound like snobs. It's not even that. I really want to eat good things. I don't want to be eating poison. A oil that is bad and damaged or old is poison.
Yeah.
So it's not because I want to, no, I don't want to eat poison. So
the miller.
Just remember
the miller will not allow olives that aren't perfect into the mill.
Yeah.
And that means you've got to know your miller. You've got to know who it is you're doing business with. I got 7 guys that I visit all these years, every year, not just at harvest time, but during January and March and in the middle of the summer when there's no olives on the trees. I visit these guys, and then I visit them when they're doing the vendemmia, when they're doing the harvest, and I see how they operate. And there's a world of difference between that and the miles and miles and miles of hectares of Andalusian land and Calabrian land and Pugliese land that grows lots and lots of olives, but they're already fly specked, they're already fly driven, they're already got spray residue on them. They've been over sprayed. My guys don't spray at all. And
well, and these producers can get away with that because people don't understand.
No.
And they think they're buying good olive oil. And if people stopped buying that stuff, they would change the way they produce it. But I guess that's asking a lot.
But they're not gonna people aren't gonna change. They're gonna buy what's in the supermarket. And that's the end of it, and that's their loss. Guess what? There's more for us.
Yeah, that's right. It is a finite amount of oil coming out of the Mediterranean in terms of
my number. You heard my number. 95% of all the olive oil in the world is late harvest oil.
Wow.
That's a big crazy number. That's not 70% or 75%. 95% of all the olive oil in the world is late harvest oil. Has no business being in any serious foodie's kitchen. Anybody serious about food, cooking, entertaining, being with the people they love to be with, has any business buying that kind of olive oil in a supermarket, because it ain't no.
Steve, my biggest problem right now is getting people off canola oil. That's my first step already.
Get him off canola oil, did you say?
Yeah.
Rapeseed. I love the name. Rapeseed.
That's the start. So then and then corn oil and then peanut oil. All this.
Colza.
Well,
I was in Beauvilliers. What's his name? What's his name's great restaurant in Montmartre? Guy Savoy.
Guy Savoy.
Guy Savoy's magnificent Beauvilliers. Montmartre. I was there in I guess it was 79, and he gave me a salad that was mâche, walnut oil, and sherry wine vinegar. And the lights went on for me. I had no idea what mâche was. I had no idea what walnut vinegar was. I mean, walnut oil was. And I certainly had no idea about sherry wine vinegar. James and I spent time in Spain together. And
that's right.
We made it our business to go to have a Ted, I understand.
You guys, Kenny asked a question. So basically, Kenny, we know that 95% of them are already late harvest.
Yeah.
So that gives you an indication. I'm just answering that question of Kenneth. That basically the thing is there's not many good olive oil. That's what basically it's saying. So you're gonna have to find brands that are, you know.
If there were, I'd recommend them. I'd say, oh, by the way, pick up that Cola Vita early harvest such and such. But there is.
And butter is good too. Yes, 4 days.
Early harvest oil. I don't know, but maybe.
4 days.
But Olivier, I need to reiterate that by the 3rd, 4th week of October, anything before that's considered early harvest. By the 3rd, 4th week of October, when those olives have changed from the green and beige and gone into that other color spectrum of pink and red and magenta and then brown and then purple and then black, all of those pretty colors.
Right.
There's no polyphenols here.
Right.
So I'm trying to reiterate what I said to you. Within a matter of days, the polyphenol level drops like a rock. It doesn't go.
So you can see from the leaves.
Like a rock.
You can see from the tree leaves. It's green, and then it turns, you know, cyan and those. That's because the chlorophyll is going away. So basically, when the chlorophyll goes away, you can actually see the beta carotene, and it's orange and green. So you can actually see it now because the green is gone. Exactly. So the chlorophyll is actually gone, and that's the polyphenol.
So I horsewhip all 7 of my millers to get those olives off those trees in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd week of October. And guess what? They make me pay more money to do that because that changes their lifestyle. Well, not my guys, because they do early harvest anyway, but they then have to sit on that olive oil in huge containers for it to decant, for things to settle. They don't pass it through a membrane to make it clear. They do what we call decant. They just allow it to sit. Let gravity do that work where things settle. All 7 of the Olive Oil Jones olive oils are unfiltered oil, which thrills me because I love the notion of a cloudy olive oil.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
For me, James, it's like for me the straw rye mats, the rye straw mats that I smuggled in from France for 25 years so that I could have the proper thing underneath my cheeses, which is a rye straw French mat.
Right.
Those straw mats thrilled me. I would see them and my blood would rush. It would make me excited because I knew that rye straw mat was close to a great cheese. It's the same thing with unfiltered olive oil for me. Or the same thing of going to a concert back in the old days and seeing big, huge piles of amplifiers and speakers. That turned me on to see a Marshall amp or a Vox amp or a Fender amp and great big walls of speakers. That was thrilling to me. It's the same thing with cloudy olive oil. That's thrilling. It's got all the wonderful.
I agree.
It makes it peasanty. It makes it rustic. And
I agree.
I can tell by your look on your face that you want to get out of here.
Me?
Yeah.
I want to come to New York and have dinner with you and hang out in a restaurant. We think we'll be able to do that again in our lifetimes?
No.
Damn it. I think we will.
Jimmy, everybody I know here.
Yeah. Steve, it's the same here. People are really, really freaked out. It's a huge problem. People are opening and then closing back right behind after a week. They no money to pay the rent. There's no money for anything. It's a catastrophe. And nobody's doing anything, and people are freaked out. And
the difference is that it's not 100 degrees here. It's beautiful out. Cool.
All right, so we have 1 more minute, James. You want to finish up with something?
Well, I just want to thank Steve for being here today. Yeah, Steve, you are a joy to talk to. You are truly one of the smartest people I know.
You know in your heart that there's nobody on the face of the earth that I'd rather be with or talk to than you. So it's
thank you.
Sort of prejudiced.
Well, I'm so glad you got to meet Olive too. I'm glad you got to meet Olive too.
Yeah, me too. That's great. Thank you. Good to meet you, everyone. Thank you so much, Kenny. Thank you for showing up. Frode, my chef over there. You guys.
Olive Oil Jones. Olive Oil Jones. I'm jonesing for Olive Oil Jones. That's
Let me
Jones
put
is
that
like
in.
an addiction.
Let me put that in. Let me just put a new one.
The Jones part is like a heroin addiction, like olive oil.
Yeah.
Jones.
It's Oliver Jones.
oliveoiljones.com.
Olive Oil Jones.
Olive Oil Jones. Not canola oil Jones. It's olive oil Jones.
I'm very grateful to you for letting me be with you.
Well, I really appreciate you being here too. Oh, there we go. Oh, great. Everybody go check it out. I mean, it's you know, it's worth it. It's worth doing. It's worth having my olive oil shipped to me. It's going to get shipped out here anyway. I might as well have it shipped directly to me.
And also,
Sterling.
The milkman with the clear ice, big blocks of clear ice. In the
Right.
The Olive Man.
The olive
Me,
man.
I'm the Olive Man, but that's my name. My name is Olivier, right? It's Zitoun in Arabic.
And Jimmy, that great Ibanez guitar that you gave me.
Yes.
Still
Guys, we gotta go.
perfect. The perfect guitar. It has fabulous tone.
Wow.
I killed you in that deal.
You have fabulous tone too, my brother. Thank you for being here. We're out of
Thank you,
time.
guys.
Steve, I'll talk to you soon. Big
Very
fist.
good. Thank you. Thank you.
Where's my fist? There's my
Bless-
fist.
bless your
Fist
heart.
Happy 4th of July.